On this part 2 of my interview with Kunal, he talks about his journey into open source development. What are the benefits of open source development? And he also talks about Major League Hacking. What is Major League Hacking and how did he become a Major League Hacking fellow? Okay, I hope you'll enjoy this conversation with him. He also has his own YouTube channel where he talks about coding. It's called Code for Cause. I'll link it in the description, so do check it out. He has a really amazing machine learning bootcamp where he goes from the basics of machine learning all the way to the more advanced and intermediate concepts in machine learning. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you subscribe to his channel as well. And yeah, I mean, I had a really amazing time just talking with him, and I hope you also enjoy and learn something from this. Thank you so much, and subscribe to the channel, like this video, and now let's get into the video. Now let's talk about your MLH experience. What is MLH exactly? Most people don't know what this is, and like I know what it is, but like I want to know from you so that people can understand once and for all.
Yeah, MLH, Major League Hacking, is a community company, and it's basically focused on empowering student developers. And the way that they do it is by providing a platform to conduct events, network people, grow your community. When there was no COVID-19 situation, so a lot of MLH events were happening in India as well, because last year is the year when they came to the APAC region. And they selected like many coaches for MLH APAC region and program managers. And there were like a lot of good and amazing hackathons going on in collaboration with GitHub and Microsoft. But now all these things are, virtual. There are a lot of virtual hackathons happening. Online webinars are happening. And regarding that, they also started this thing called the MLH Fellowship, for which I was, I feel really honored to be a part of that particular program. It was to be honest, the best open source program that I have been a part of. The applications of the fellowship are currently open, so you can apply for the fall or summer next year.
And what are the requirements?
The requirements are just you need to be a university student, college student.
Okay.
And I believe that's it. I'm
that's
not
really
pretty
sure. You don't need to be like.
That's pretty much it. The requirements are that, I mean, the mandatory requirements, I'm not sure about all the requirements that are given on the website, but I'm not really sure about the selection process, because a lot of people applied during this period, and around 20,000 people applied, and around 140 were selected. Oh. And it was, according to me, it was one of the best experiences of my life. We weren't just contributing to projects, we were also like learning a lot of other things, networking with people, taking parts in various activities. We had hackathons, show and tells, we had like scribble sessions, fun activities. We had people from various companies do workshops for us. In every day we had like a workshop from IBM, Red Hat, like Google, Facebook. I mean, people from all over the companies, they were giving. We had these one-on-one networking opportunities on Zoom itself. So any questions you want to ask, not just like it's live on YouTube, but one-on-one on Zoom. We had CTF challenges, many events, things like that. And the projects that people were contributing to were also amazing. And one thing that was different about this program is particularly that you weren't contributing by yourself. You were actually in a pod of students. So each pod was consisting of like 9 to 10 mentors, 10 students, and each pod was assigned a mentor. So my mentor was just amazing, such a cool guy, Yanni Avacalio, and he made the fellowship experience really good. We had a lot of fun, and the stand-ups were really good. And each pod itself was assigned a particular open source organization to contribute to. So I feel really great that our project was assigned Facebook. So the people from my pod were contributing to projects related to Facebook, like React Native. Jest is the project which I contributed to. It's like if you use Facebook, it's pretty much sure that my code is on there. So
that must be really like an amazing feeling to open up.
Yeah,
Facebook
we got
I have a line of code in there.
Yeah, we have it on Jest, and Facebook is built on master. So whenever your code gets merged into master, it means that it's over there now. So it feels good that we merged 2 PRs during the fellowship into the Facebook's Jest project.
Facebook has like a strange tech stack. I think they have PHP, and then they also use React. It's just like
kind of strange. React, JavaScript, mostly TypeScript currently are the ones that I worked with. So
All right. Now, in college, there are like three or four kind of people. One who are completely into competitive coding. Number two, who are doing development work. And then number three is like the people who are into open source and they're like hobbyist programmers, then who are like constantly just learning new things just for the sake of it. So like, what is the benefit of contributing to open source, and why should one consider that as an option?
Yeah. So what I would suggest is that if you are doing development or even open source, please don't skip competitive programming. Do competitive programming. It's really important. Data structure algorithms are really important. You should not skip that.
All
And
right.
coming to the benefits of open source things and other things. So yeah, there are a lot of benefits. You get the recognition in the community. You get to meet people from all over the world. You get to make connections if you need like referrals or other things like that, even job opportunities. So that open source really opens up a lot of doors. Other thing is the real world software development experience, from the comfort of your home. So if you
Yeah.
want to have something to be showcased on your CV, so if you write on
Mhm.
your CV, hey, I'm a contributor in Facebook React, that means a lot. If you're applying to, let's say, Red Hat, and in your
Yeah.
CV you have mentioned I'm an open source contributor at Red Hat, like Quarkus, Cogito, or any other project that they have. So that matters a lot. And I personally got interviews in my first year itself from Red Hat Boston. So I had an interview with him, and that interview went really well, but due to some HR situation, they weren't hiring. Uh, so I met the person who took my interview at KubeCon. So that is
Okay.
one more benefit of contributing to open source, that you get to attend many events. So I got to attend for free KubeCon North America, KubeCon Amsterdam, which sadly was
So
virtual
what
this
happens
year.
in these events?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just amazing. There are like 13,000 people under one roof, a lot of networking. If you just go to the KubeCon website, you can see the amount of sponsors they have over there. So 200 sponsors, I guess. I mean, Google, Red Hat, Microsoft, Facebook, not Facebook, I think the cloud native tech like
Crazy, bro.
AWS, Amazon, Rancher,
Pretty much
many other
everything.
companies. So yeah, 200 plus companies, and a lot of networking opportunities, a lot of swags, and it's like a 4 to 5 day event. There are also local mini events, and there are like many parties as well. So Google and Netflix threw us a party in San Diego, and it was like fully open, like
So you
eat
actually
anything
got
you
to
want,
travel to
drink
that
anything you
to
want.
San Diego?
Yeah, I was over there on a scholarship
Wow.
by Links Foundation for free. So my hotel was covered by them, flights and all these things. And I believe I owe it to open source. I was also going to go to Amsterdam this year, but that was like also because of the COVID situation. The conference went virtual, so wasn't
Mhm.
able to go. But it was a good experience online as well. But after the COVID situation is lifted, and when the applications reopen for these sort of scholarships, I would highly recommend all everyone to apply. And how to make your application stand out? Well, if you have some sort of open source contributions or any contributions related to community or anything like that, that
Mhm.
makes your application a bit stronger. And trust me, it's going to be one of the best experiences of your life. KubeCon especially, it's going to be the best experience of your life, which was
All
great.
right, I'll definitely mark it in. I have to check that out. All right.
Yeah, because
So,
next KubeCon is like also virtual, so
mhm,
most probably next year, I think.
I'll definitely apply on that too. So, what do you think about the stigma that people have that if you are not in the top tier colleges like the IITs, that you won't be able to have as many opportunities in terms of getting a job or in terms of just networking with people? What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't believe that to be true. Obviously, like if you're from a good college, that is a great thing, because colleges like that have such amazing companies come to your college itself. You don't have to apply like off campus or things like that. But applying to off campus is not a bad thing,
Yeah.
because I personally know that a lot of people who have gotten jobs at Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Amazon, and other companies off campus. So most of the things that happen, like how do they actually do it, there are two aspects to it. One is their network.
Yeah.
If they have some amazing network and amazing contributions in the community. There was a guy, I really a friend of mine, he got an internship at Facebook UK in Europe. and he wasn't that good at competitive programming, but he was amazing at development. So open source contributions, next level. He was contributing Facebook as well. So he was also the MLH fellow this year. So uh, that is, those connections led him to Facebook. And there was another guy. He's interning at Apple. He also was a WWDC scholar. That is a scholarship. So
Yeah.
he's also like a really good iOS developer. There are
Mhm.
other people, many examples from, there's a college, JP University. So from there, there's a very good competitive coding culture. So over there, people were like really good at these Google competitions called Kickstart and other problems, like Code Jam, I think. So they had good ranks in that, and they just reached out to the recruiters and got an interview, and then did good in their interview, and then they got a job. JP particularly is a good college. I'm not sure about the college,
Yeah.
but the people I
But
have
the
seen
people
from there, I
around,
have seen,
yeah.
yeah, I've seen a lot of people over there getting into Google. Like I'm not sure how, but it's like from their competitive programming profiles. So that is what I would suggest you. Even like me, myself also, I got many like interview opportunities in my, I mean, second year itself, because currently they don't really hire second year students. So I am currently also in the verge of applying, and
Mhm.
I also have a few interviews scheduled for next few weeks
Wow.
for really good companies. So that happened because of open source. I did not like uh, show them my competitive profile. I just showed them my development profile, that I'm good at Kubernetes, I'm good at DevOps and other things. They were
Mhm.
like, okay, let's schedule an interview. And that is how, because your connections matter a lot. If you're just coding in isolation, if you're not showing to the outside world what you're actually capable of doing. I'm talking this about people who are from like tier 2, tier 3 colleges. So
Yeah.
people who are from IITs and other colleges, you're good to go,
Yeah.
because Google is going to come to your
But you know what?
college.
Actually, I feel
And
that
yeah,
I feel that people who are from tier two, tier three colleges and who actually make it to the top companies, they are better prepared for their career. What do you think about that? Because they
that
have gone through the
yeah,
process of like networking to people, talking to people,
yeah,
learning new skills, and they have like a different mindset, I feel.
yeah, because it's your developer. I mean, this is quite, to be honest, Frank. If you want to get a good job, learn how to write good emails. Okay, so that actually matters a lot. Like your developer profile, that matters a lot. What you're doing, what you're actually capable of doing. Your skill set, what you're good at, that should be visible to the outside world. So share it with people. Go to events. Network with people. Interact with people, give interest in what they are working in which field they're working in, how you can get involved, how you can get inspired. If you're good at something, teach someone. If you want to give a workshop, conduct a webinar. I'm not saying like do a lot of things. And there was a good question you mentioned about people learning a lot of things. So I did that when I was in, I mean, last year I did, when I first started like coding in my first year. So I was doing a lot of things. I did like Java, C, C++, Python, web development, mobile development. I did like the DevOps, Docker, cloud, machine learning. You can see the machine learning webinars I've conducted. Deep
Yeah.
learning, NLP, and then I was doing AR, VR, and then I believe the only field that I haven't touched is blockchain.
Blockchain.
So was that, yeah? So was that a good thing? No, no, it wasn't a good thing for me. I mentioned about pie-shaped learning. So, like I said, know everything about something, something about everything. So, pie is like there are like two pillars, and there's a horizontal line. So, these two pillars should be your in-depth knowledge that you have, and other things you should be aware of in the tech world. So, I didn't like TypeScript that much, okay. But then,
Okay.
when in the MLH fellowship, I got assigned a project that was using TypeScript. I was able to contribute because it was in my horizontal skill set. But regarding how wide I went, I would not suggest that. Don't go so much wide. If you're not going to use that particular tech, then don't really learn it. If you're not going to use machine learning, then for a student right now, it's not really beneficial for you if it's not help. If you're not, basically what I'm saying is, if you're not able to give 100% in a particular field, then it's not really a good idea to start something else. I'm not saying don't explore.
Yeah.
Definitely explore, definitely do explore everything, but don't go into deep all these things like I did, because now I regret that. Okay, I was like, hey, if I didn't spend so much time on mobile development, I could have done better at competitive programming or other things,
Okay.
or DevOps and other things. So do explore everything, do attend events, watch virtual talks and other things, but find your passion, find what you're good at, and just
And
give your
focus on
100%.
that properly.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm. All right. What do you think about LinkedIn and LinkedIn for developers, especially? You seem to be posting a lot of stuff
Yeah.
and your learnings on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I believe LinkedIn is a great platform, to connect with people. Whatever you're doing, okay, showcase it on LinkedIn. Whatever experiences you have, just keep your, it's sort of like a virtual resume sort of thing. So keep your LinkedIn profile updated and other things like that. But what I would suggest is, what I personally believe to be better than LinkedIn is Twitter. So Twitter is just top of the, just the best platform that you can be on
It's
as
really
a
good for
developer
a
is
100
Twitter.
days of code
Yeah.
challenge, I think.
Yeah, but that is that is okay. I mean, 100 days of code is it's like there are, building a Twitter profile, it's a really good thing, because take an example of any particular talk. Okay, go to YouTube, just type KubeCon talk or
Hmm.
open source summit talk, pick any talk at random. On that particular talk, the person is going to say, hey, if you like my talk, you can connect with me on Twitter. No one is
Okay.
going to say, hey, if you like my talk, connect with me on LinkedIn. That is
Okay.
not going to happen. So
Hmm.
there are thousands and even like 10,000 lakhs of talks online, right? So
Hmm.
any talk you want to take, just pick up that talk. You will see that the person is saying, connect with me on Twitter. And that
All
is
right.
true. A lot of the developers hang out on Twitter. If you're
Hmm.
particularly active in open source, so if you start contributing to open source, all of your project maintainers and other people are also going to be much active on Twitter, and all the other releases about the projects, that hey, we just released a new version and things like that. Most of the time that is also going to be available on Twitter. So the developer community at Twitter is really active. So learn how to build a good Twitter profile. Your Twitter profile should speak out what you do. So your Twitter
Hmm.
profile should speak out that, okay, this person is a web developer, this person is a mobile developer, this person is into containers and Kubernetes and other things like that. So be active on Twitter. And it's to be honest better than LinkedIn. And you're going to, if you're looking into especially about networking with people, then Twitter is the place to go. If you text someone on LinkedIn, you might not get a reply.
Hmm.
Okay, because most of these people don't even check their LinkedIn.
Yeah.
What they do check is their Twitter. So
Okay.
if you want to network with people, if you want to have get their attention, you should reach out to them on Twitter, because it's most probably they're not going to be checking their LinkedIn.
All right. That was really insightful. One last question that I have for you is, why did you say that it's really important to do data structures and algorithms before you jump into development side of it? Because this is something different, and people just say that just do software development if you want to do that, or just focus on DS algo.
See, I mean, the thing is that we are in India. Okay, so there's a
Yeah.
lot of competition for jobs and internships.
Yeah.
And if you don't if you don't have a good competitive programming profile, and if you are not good at problem solving, then most of the time in interviews, that is the stuff that they ask, and that is the truth.
Hmm.
So for many people that I have also interviewed from Google, Microsoft, Facebook about their internship experience, they have asked about that, hey, please do your competitive programming, your problem solving skill set. When you ask for a referral to someone, they are going to say, hey, can you please send me your computer programming profile.
Okay.
And Yeah, the computer programming is really important, and your problem solving skills are really important. Regarding learning data structure algorithms before development is because in development also there are a lot of inbuilt data structures that are being used, and DSLGO and problem solving really makes it easier for you to build better applications. Okay,
Okay.
so that is a good thing. I mean, obviously you can do just web development without doing data structures. That is completely okay, you can do it, you can be good at it as well. But
Hmm.
all the things come around the interview. So whenever you're getting like an interview opportunity at Google, Facebook, Microsoft, or any other company, bro, that is the harsh truth. They are going to ask computer programming.
Yeah.
Go to any online portal, any
Whiteboard
requirement, any
questions and all.
first, yeah, they are going to ask that. If you ask for a referral to any Google employee, they are most probably, if they don't know you, they are going to say, hey, can you please send me your computer profile.
Yeah.
And that is the truth, because there's a lot of competition. So you should maintain a balance, because
Okay.
getting those opportunities can open source can help you in that. But actually clearing the interview, you know uh, competitive programming can help you in that. But there are many other companies that don't really require test you on the basis of your competitive programming profiles. Like I did an interview with Red Hat. They asked me about my development and all these other things. So
Okay.
my projects, my skills, and other things. They didn't ask me competitive programming. There are many other companies like if you reach out to someone via conferences. So if you go to KubeCon and you find a particular company that you're interested in, you're like, hey, you are doing really cool things. I have done a bit of things in Kubernetes and stuff. Can I please know more about opportunities over here? So obviously they're going to ask you about Kubernetes and what they work on. So it depends on company wise. I'm not saying that it's impossible to get a job without competitive programming, but I'm saying competitive programming is important just to be on the safe side. Because if you want to work at like Google and other companies, please don't risk it. Do competitive programming, and in the end, it's going to help you also, because you don't need to be like the best competitive programmer in India. You just want to be having a decent competitive programming profile and be able to solve the questions that they put forward to you. So that is something that I applied to like a company in KubeCon. I was networking online virtually, obviously. So there was a company from South Korea, and they also followed up with me via an email. So they were like, we're going to conduct an online interview, and I was like, okay, what are you going to ask? And they were like, competitive programming, system design. So I was like, okay.
System design.
It's not just system design. So I should probably brush up on my topics before the interview. But yeah, it's really important, competitive programming. There are like a lot of good blogs related to that. So don't focus on the depth, don't focus on the breadth, focus on the depth. So instead of doing like 1,000 questions, do 100 popular questions. So top 100 popular questions. So when you do these 100 popular questions like 2 or 3 times, you will notice a pattern. So you will notice like, okay, this problem has particular pattern by sliding window or 2 pointers or dynamic programming, other things. So there are these particular patterns, and there was a blog related to that as well. So there was a blog, you can just Google 14 coding interview patterns to ace any interview. I think that was it.
I'll link it up in the description so all of you can check it out.
Yeah, that is an amazing blog, and it mentions all the particular patterns that are that goes into problem solving skills. So once you know these patterns, then you can solve any particular problem. And regarding competitive programming, best platform is like LeetCode for company wise questions and topic wise questions. And if you want to practice live contests, which is really, really important, then Codeforces and AdCoder are really good, and CodeChef is also really good.
All right, Kunal, it was an amazing time talking to you, and I hope the audience will be able to learn something from this. You can also check out his YouTube channel. I'll link it in the description. Make sure that you subscribe to him as well. Thank you so much, Kunal.
Yeah. If you have any other questions, you can always reach out to me on Twitter. And thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and if you want to connect with Kunal, I'll leave the link in the description to his Twitter handles and his LinkedIn profile. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.